understand that hoarding is disorder connected with obsessive compulsive disorder. People gather all kind of stuff and cannot help themselves. And also keeping the stuff, not trying to, like, that wasn't my intention. Some of the stuff I keep because I ran out of time to disperse and sell, or I'm a very busy person, so it gets overwhelmed after a while, and then you have a storage space, and that costs money.
Eugenia Lester is a former businesswoman who lives in Pasadena, California. She is one of the more than 3 million people in the United States who hoards.
Hoarding is commonly described as having too much stuff and having too much stuff that interferes with your life so that you can't function the way that you would normally do without too much stuff.
Mark Odom is a hoarding specialist in Irvine, California, who has been working in mental health for more than 25 years. He says he's seen it all, from meat hoarders to animal hoarders to people who even hoard medicine bottles and receipts.
Some people won't give up something because they feel like it's a part of themselves. And so part of the cognitive restructuring is helping them realize that that pen or that paper cup that's theirs is something that is not really them. A lot of people who hoard have this mistaken pattern of thinking that anything that they touch is very significant, or anything that's been given to them.
But as long as we are here. So I know all those facts. Nevertheless, when I see items and I say, oh, that's brand new, it has a price tag on it, so it's worth it, But it's always the time that you have to count. It's worth it if you can sell it right then. If you have to pay storage, it's not worth it.
This is Eugenia's home in Granada Hills, California, 5 years ago. She had accumulated so much stuff inside and outside the house that 3 of her children left by the age of 13.
We all kind of moved out. I mean, I stayed there the longest, but I eventually had to get out myself, and it just became like I wanted to keep my room clear at least, and that was just too difficult because, and it's just a constant uphill battle, I think.
First of all, I'd like to say, in respect to my mother, she doesn't like to be called a hoarder, so I like to describe it as extreme clutterer or extreme collector.
Andrew and Cynthia Lester are Eugenia's children. They stayed with different friends when they were younger, as their mom's things slowly edged them out of their bedrooms.
First, we really didn't know. I mean, it was pretty much just junk that didn't get thrown away or something, and then eventually more and more became coming, and so like bags and bags of clothes. We're like, okay. And then eventually it turned into furniture, couches, and everything like that, and it's like, okay.
Growing up with my mom and her mental illness was difficult because we couldn't bring, friends around. We didn't have clean clothes. We didn't have a place to study. We didn't have our own living arrangements, so privacy was very difficult. We had to keep this problem secret. If we told the teachers, the teachers would report us, and then we would get taken into foster care. I wouldn't want to be separated from my brothers. My friend said that she saw my mom going through the dumpster one day, and I remember that really stood out to me because suddenly my friend knows about this problem.
There's no much to recycle. I already got it.
She is now studying social work in graduate school at the University of Southern California in order to better understand her mom's condition. Cynthia went off to film school in New York in 2006, but she came back to do a project about her mom's hoarding and called it My Mother's Garden.
My brothers and I got together. We were really concerned about my mom's well-being. She'd been living in this house, and we had known that the stuff was piling up, and we didn't know what to do about it. She was very aggressive with us about the situation, didn't want help. We decided to have an intervention, and because I'm a filmmaker, I decided to use the camera as my tool to get to know my mom better. She has chosen to fill her life with sorting through all this stuff as a way to deal with the fact that she may feel lonely, or she may feel like she's not really engaged in society. She doesn't have a job. Like, she may feel like she doesn't have a purpose. So this is her way to deal with that.
The reason is in Poland we didn't have that much that is in America. We had to, after war, you have to wait in line to get something. I remember that I couldn't get my doll until I was in 3rd grade. And it came from like Hungary. And my aunt had a friend in a store, and she saved one under the cover, you know. Otherwise, the line was so long there wasn't enough dolls for every kid in the village. So I had to take care of children and the business. And then when children grew out, I started recycling. I wasn't recycling when they were little. I mean, I taught them. I was recycling some because I remember that the metal cans that they usually don't buy, I taught kids open from both sides. The metal can smash it, and then we can put a lot of in a box. So one time I took like 1,000 pounds in my car, and I got only $10 for it.
The Lester's home eventually got so packed and stacked with stuff that neighbors told county officials about it, and the family was ordered to clean it up and clear it out, or could risk losing the property and paying a fine.
Entering the house, you had to go in through a window because all the entrances were blocked off. One reason she did that was to sort of protect herself from people she thought was stealing from her from the outside. So she would sort of block off all the entrances to the house except for this window. So another thing is the piles got so high that you could actually step up right from the window and step right onto the pile, and which was maybe like 4 feet from the ceiling. So the piles made their way on top of couches. Sometimes she had a couch on top of a couch with piles on top of that, because she had found a couch, you know, in the alleyway, and she wanted to save it. So it just went into the house on top of everything else, and so that made the pile a little bit higher in certain areas. And in some of the other areas, the piles got a little bit lower and sort of turned into little tracks that you could follow through the house. But nothing was working.
It's not safe for anybody to be living in conditions where their water doesn't run, or their electricity is not operational, or you've got frayed wires where, you know, with one spark, the whole house is going to burn down.
Mark Adams, an attorney and professional health and safety receiver, heads the California Receivership Group. He gets appointed by a judge to clean up properties with health and safety code violations.
By the time I get involved, it's like the worst of the worst situations, because the people are not cooperating or not doing anything. And so the city, as a last resort, will file a petition with the court to have me appointed. Yeah.
These people are human beings. They deserve to be treated, no matter how ill they are and how bad the situation is. They still are people and humans, and they have a history, and they have, you know, family members, and to just go in and discard everything, their lives, there has to be some compassion put into it, and I offer that.
And people have a right to, in some ways, to live any way that they want to, but when that impinges on their own health and safety concerns, or more importantly, the communities, then somebody's got to step in and protect these people from themselves, really.
He, along with Mark Odom, are part of the Orange County Task Force on Hoarding. The group recently held its annual hoarding summit in Huntington Beach, with workshops and panels giving various county agencies and caregivers help on how to handle a hoarding situation. The task force began in 2004 and consists of a number of services, such as police, animal control, the fire department, city managers and prosecutors, adult and child protection services, and the mental health department.
I mean, if you look back, 40 years ago, nobody talked about hoarding. Nobody talked, what is hoarding? I don't know, in the 1960s, there was very little research, very little acknowledgement that hoarding was a problem. I don't think the term hoarding was applied to hoarding behaviors until the 70s or 80s. More recently, it's obviously with all the impact of the TV shows and so forth, it's become a mental health problem of the day, But it's been around for forever. in terms of hoarding behavior. You can look back in history and look back in literature and so forth. And we look back at the eccentric little old lady who lived in the squalid house.
Fire inspectors Darren Johnson and Don Revelle take on close to 40 hoarding cases a year in Orange County.
Exiting and access are the most important thing for the fire department, because if we can't get in and get out, it's an issue for the occupants. It's also an issue for us to do our jobs. Unfortunately, with these hoarding situations, sometimes they don't know what's going on until they actually start cutting in or making entry into a home. In hoarding cases, it's pretty common on a fire incident to see them have to cut a lot of holes in the roofs to get in.
Both inspectors have recently dealt with hoarded homes where the owners died because all their exits were blocked.
She, elderly, needed a walker to walk, couldn't get down the path that she had to the front door. When she got there and couldn't get out the front door and the smoke was pushing her, she decided to brave it and try to go back through the kitchen. At that time, the fire was of greater size, lit her hair on fire. And she ran back towards the front door. When she ran back towards the front door, she fell in the trough that was made for her 12-inch exit path, and everything else fell on top of her.
It took 9 huge dumpsters to clear out the Lester's old home. Cynthia's brothers did it with a cleaning crew while she took her mom to New York in order to get her away from the house. But when Eugenia returned to an empty house, she was devastated.
You guys robbed me. You robbed me, really.
It was especially after the kids emptied the house completely, and I lost my china, and I lost some pictures that were valuable to me of my kids or my family from Poland. And I think I had the imbalance at that time because, you know, I'm a religious person, and I didn't understand why I don't want to live. I mean, I knew why I didn't want to, because what was happening to me, losing business and neighbors and so forth. What happened, I stopped eating completely. I was losing weight. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. So that's why my daughter decided that this, and my sons, is the dangerous thing. And when they came to visit me in the hospital and they saw me still depressed, I would be like depressed and don't want to eat, no one to talk, I don't want to see a doctor. And so Cindy was scared, and she said, "Mom, why are you so sad? Is it because we threw everything from the house?" And I didn't answer first, but that's what it was.
Hoarding affects individuals of all socioeconomic backgrounds and can become increasingly difficult to afford the proper treatment.
Trying to find treatment for my mom was very difficult and still is. I called a couple agencies. One, UCLA has a treatment program that's supposed to be like really top notch. It's an intensive treatment program, but it costs $16,000 for a 6-week program, and the person has to be able and willing enough to get themselves to UCLA every day from like 9 to 1 for 6 weeks straight. As you know, this problem is very debilitating, and it's hard to get my mom out of the house to begin with on time. So they're very structured in a way that doesn't make sense for the population that they're dealing with.
Now Eugenia's old bedroom in Pasadena is starting to resemble her old home in Granada Hills.
Oh, he took recycles to recycle place, but he has another cart going, so it doesn't look good right now.
And though the Lester kids are all adults now, going to their mom's house is still not an option.
Kind of made things more difficult. I really didn't have any place to call home, so that's kind of one thing. I had a few friends here and there, but it was nothing really substantially home.
Yeah, it's really difficult coming to visit my mom and knowing that you can't even go and have a place to sit down and have some family time. We always have to go to restaurants and just have a quick little family meeting over dinner, and then that's it. And even still today, she doesn't have a good living environment.
Hoarding is an intractable problem. It just is really hard to figure out what a real solution is. absent a family, we're making up solutions as we go along because there's no clear answer to the hoarding issue.
Since hoarding gets worse every decade in life, when we have this huge tsunami of older adults getting older, the severity of hoarding increases with age. In the next 20 years, we're going to have more situations, more older adults who live in more severe hoarding situations.
Some people claim, like the therapist, that because I cannot pass by without picking up, that has something to do with OCD. But I try to assure them that I just like the green virgin glass. Virgin green, not the debris on it, because it just bothers me.